come to me.
Focus Features invites you to succumb to the darkness.
Nosferatu.
From director Robert Eggers comes a masterpiece of horror.
He is coming. This creature is a force more powerful than evil. It is death itself.
Nosferatu. Rated R. Under 17 nanometer without parent. Now playing only in theaters. Special engagements in Dolby and IMAX.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey. And we're here together. It's the night after Christmas, right?
This is the night after Christmas. I'm sure we're all pooped again, but it is an exciting day for shopping. So we're going to talk all about discounted Disney merch, like the Black Friday of holiday deals, I guess, after the holidays. Today's show, we're going to also talk about my recent trip to the Disney Institute. And Jim, what do you got for today's feature, sir?
For today's feature, we're going to celebrate. In fact, it was 85 years ago today that Disney Studio began moving from its digs up on Hyperion Avenue to the brand new purpose-built state-of-the-art Disney Studios in Burbank. And why Walt decided to go there and why the decision to do this really bit him in the butt when 1941 rolled around.
Tell me if I'm wrong, though. I can't wait to hear your feature. But the Hyperion Theater, is that where, like, obviously not the real one, is that where Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is in California?
Well, I want to say that the Disney, the Imagineers are all about recycling names that are important to the company's history. So I would bet you, yes, that they probably named the theater that is supposedly that Mickey's Toontown attraction is staged in. I would bet you they went with the Hyperion name.
Yeah, so every time you say it, that's what I think of.
Okay, there we go.
Do you want to choose your own adventure? Do you want to talk about my shopping plans and the great deals that you can get after the holidays? Or do we want to thank our sponsor?
I think just to keep the lights on, we should probably thank the sponsor.
Let's do it.
Want to make a big thank you to the folks at touringplans.com. Whether you're planning your first Disney trip or your season pro, Touring Plans has you covered with personalized touring plans, real-time wait times, and tips to help you save time and money. And here's the best part. I know it's a little bit after the holiday season, but you can still give the gift of Touring Plans this year. A 1-year subscription to Touring Plans for Disney World, Disneyland, Universal, Orlando, or even the cruise line. It would make the perfect gift for the theme park fan on your list, the one you forgot about that you're now going to get something for. For all the details, head on over to touringplans.com. So again, Lauren, we're recording, or this show is going to be posted the day after Christmas. So I got to tell you, my habit after the holidays is, again, I'm impossible to shop for. So everyone gives me gift cards. So I end up on Amazon ordering books for my reference library. And it's always a great day to shop for books because the price on everything drops because Amazon is now looking at their warehouses full of inventory. And it's like, oh my God, get these ridiculous expensive Disney books out of here. But what about you? What are your strategies for shopping after the holidays and the Black Friday such and such?
Well, I'm pretty certain, though, that you're right about the price drops on Amazon because I think they started inflating their prices about, I don't know, Halloween so that they could have all of these like limited time deals and like we're slashing the prices. I think they were all inflated. So save your Amazon gift cards for after the holidays. And you're talking about touring plans being such a great deal. I mentioned last show that I consider myself to be bougie on a budget. So I love, love, love a deal. Like I'm competitive. It's the thrill of the chase. And there are no better deals to be had than right after the holidays because everybody is exhausted from shopping. They've already, they've already got what they need. So Walmart's, Targets, Hobby Lobbies, all everywhere, they're cutting their prices. So this is another shopping pro tip. If you go to Walmart, so like our holiday tradition is if we can like get ourselves out of bed, is to
Mhm.
try to hit Walmart as early as possible on the day after Christmas because I mean, it has to happen at like midnight. They
Mhm.
slash all the prices on everything that was holiday related by 50% right out the gate. So,
Mhm.
like, if you're looking for wreaths or ornaments, or, I mean, like, they have like, it's not just the Christmas, like, decorations. They have all those gift sets, and, like,
Mhm.
you can get body washes or, like, shaving, or, they just, it's cologne, perfume, whatever it is. All of it
Mhm.
is 50% off. So might have been 2 years ago. They
Mhm.
had all of their Disney ornaments 50% off. I think we bought like 10 or 15
Mhm.
because it's just such a great deal. And we got like our tree skirt for this year's theme because like I do a themed tree every year. This
Mhm.
year was like treats. It was supposed to be treats slash like Disney 50th anniversary, but I got like a teal tree skirt with like Mickey and Friends on it. I think I got it for like $5 or something. So
Wow, that's
it,
great.
yeah, like so if you can, think ahead, and we're all exhausted from Christmas, but if you do just a little bit of strategic planning, you
Mhm.
can really get whatever you need. Think like gift exchanges for the next year, or how you're going to decorate your tree. I think Eric wants us to do ours is like, he said earthy. Like he's thinking like Animal Kingdom
Hmm.
vibe. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting time to go there. I mean, think about it. We have, in fact, just as we're recording the show, Mufasa, the prequel to The Lion King, will have arrived in theaters. And undoubtedly, there is merch for that out there that will, again, in this post holiday window, we'll see its price drop. So,
Yeah, so I mean, we shall see. And I did look, just we are a merch show here. I did look at the Mufasa merch, and it is not very robust, not yet, at least. So,
yeah.
we shall see, I guess, on that.
Well, what's kind of interesting about that is that, in fact, I think Disney is honestly surprised. The reviews so far for that have been very, very strong, and I think the initial thoughts were it's a Lion King prequel, and the original Lion King came out, or the live action photorealistic came out in the summer, and the notion of I don't know if this is necessarily a holiday title. We'll put together a modest merchandise line, but if it does as well as I think Disney now is thinking it will do. Now, mind you, on just yesterday, December 25th, the sing along version of Wicked opened in theaters. And by the way, as I understand it, you and Lainey were already singing along when you saw Wicked.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now they were like some concerns about people singing in the theaters. Like I did see that, but we're in Wheeling. Nothing too crazy was going on here, but I am down for the sing along. I'm not sure how long it is going to be out in theaters, but if I can get there, I will, because one of
Okay.
my most favorite things at the parks is the Frozen sing along. I love to embarrass my family.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right. We know where you'll be when we're doing the show. But anyway, my understanding is they anticipate that there will be on the heels of the success, there will be a more robust effort for the again Mufasa the Lion King prequel. But
Well, we shall see, and I'll let you know if I see anything. I don't know about tree decor, but other great deals.
mm,
As we're recording this show, Lowe's already had all of their indoor outdoor Disney decor 50% off, so I might get that Mickey and Minnie car after all.
oh, okay.
And remember I told you Dave bought me the phone from Lowe's. Oh,
Mhm.
I love
Yep.
that stuff.
Yep.
Um, And then, like, if you are looking for Disney proper,
Mhm,
be on the lookout for the Twice Upon a Year sale. Now, this one's a little different. My strategy for the Disney store is different. So
mhm,
they'll typically roll it out around now, right? And the deals typically, I'm just saying typically, go until February, maybe mid-February. But I wait for this one because they'll start off and they'll say, "Oh, this is 50% off," or "This is 35% off." But getting into February, you'll see 60 to 75% off. And this
mhm,
is when I get like holiday sweaters, holiday pajamas, decor, any like leftover gift type of merch.
mhm.
So just be patient if you want to get like the steepest discounts.
Now, I have to ask, again, given who you are and given what an authority you are on merch or that sort of thing, do you have a mall that you specifically go to shop? Because once upon a time, Nancy actually and I did have a mall. We had. Are you aware of the Potomac Mills in Woodbridge, Virginia? Uh,
No, no, I'm not.
all right. We used to spend Christmas with Nancy's family down in Carnesville, Georgia. And about halfway between New Hampshire and Carnesville, Georgia, was Potomac Mills. And we do the first leg of driving down, about 10 hours in the car, we pull over. And we just totally found this by chance. But it turns out the Potomac Mills back in the day used to have a Disney catalog store outlet. And this was where all the merch that had not sold for the Disney catalog line back in the day would show up. And what was also interesting is that for some weird bend on the retail chain, also stuff from the Disney parks would show up. And so
Ooh.
and we would go there, and the interesting thing is they would hand you after you made a purchase, they'd hand you a 20% off card for your next purchase. And the beauty part is we drive down and scout it out on our way down to Georgia. It's like, "Oh, you wanna get that, we wanna get that." And then our way back, it's the post-Christmas sale. So everything has been cut 50% off, and we have our 20% off coupon. And at one point on our trip back, we filled our SUV, with yeah, I mean, and it was ceramics and cookie jars and all of this high-end stuff. And Nancy got in the car and like a Marvel superhero, because she had a receipt that had to be 3 feet long, all right, and we had all of this high-end merch, and she's like, $150, $150, look at this.
It's a high. Like, I think it's a
It is,
dopamine hit, right? When you get those good deals?
it is. But anyway, all right, let's get back to your shopping techniques and what people should be doing going into the post-Christmas sales this year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I gave you my tips and tricks. So I would just try to come up with a plan now while you're not exhausted. Get
Mhm,
your game plan for next year. Think about your Secret Santas. Think about your gift exchanges.
mhm,
Anytime, you go to a holiday party and they play those silly games like White
mhm,
Elephant, like this is the time to shop for those items. And the gift items at Walmart, like they're your everyday items. So
mhm.
keep a little bit of a stash back, of money for those amazing deals. But we were talking about my trip to the Disney Institute for employee engagement training on our last episode of I Want That Too, and just ran out of time. So
Mhm.
we got some really cool behind the scenes looks at things that I thought it might be interesting to share.
Yeah, now just to give a little background here, the Disney Institute started back in February of 1996. This was, I want to say, Michael Eisner had taken some classes at Chautauqua. I believe that's the outfit in upstate New York, where you can go and hear lectures, and he thought educational vacations, that's the next big thing for Disney, and sadly, didn't quite take off the way Michael at Hope. But they built a wonderful campus on top of the old, uh, what is it? The Buena
Wasn't
Vista Country Club.
Saratoga? Wasn't
Yeah,
it
now it's
Saratoga Springs where they built
yeah.
it?
That's right. In fact, that's the irony. That's another thing in upstate New York, the horsey theme. They went with that. And I want to say that back in 1998, before they sort of stepped back from, in fact, they changed it for something the public could do to, again, it was more, became more of a corporate education arm of the company. But we were there for a 3-day long celebration of Mulan, which again had been was the very first full length animated film done by well again it's the studio that's no longer with us, the Walt Disney Feature Animation Florida. But it was a lovely event. We got to chat with the directors. In fact, Nancy and I had dinner with June Foray, the voice of Grandmother Fa, but also the voice of Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Hmm.
So, no, it was a lovely time, but love the campus, love the classes. So let's talk about your experience in 2024, some 26 years later.
Yeah, well, number one, it is not at Saratoga anymore. Disney Institute has been relocated, which I'm sure
Mhm,
most people know, if you've been staying at Saratoga ever. So what they do now is they offer their classes. They do it at Disney World and Disneyland. If
mhm,
you are at Disney World, they are at the Contemporary. And if you are at Disneyland, I believe they're at the Grand Californian. So we kind of were looking back and forth to like try to decide which dates worked. And they have, they have a leadership essentials course, they have an operations course, and they have an engagement course. And while I was there, I also learned that they do some consulting work. So I think it's probably different than what Michael Eisner, had originally envisioned it.
mhm,
But they kind of had an offshoot, and they have the Disney University, which is
mm.
still there in Orlando, and that's where all of the cast members they all go for their training.
So one of the key components from the original Disney Institute that got carried over to this 2024 version is, of course, going behind the scenes or learning how the company operates and that sort of thing. So, what sort of insights did they share? What did you get to see?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I've done a lot of this professional development over,
Hmm.
my years in media, but
Hmm.
I mean, nobody does it like Disney. I mean, it was a grade A experience from start to finish, from the initial like email communications to getting there. And if you are doing one of these courses, in the future, fun fact, you get a very, very good rate on the
Hmm.
Contemporary. Unfortunately, we were already staying at the Polynesian, so we couldn't take advantage of that.
Hmm.
But so the whole reason for this specific training. I mean, I don't
Hmm.
know if our listeners are interested in employee engagement, but what they were talking about is really building culture, and clearly communicating and getting the right people that are going to create the magic, in at Disney or in your organization, and really get them, doing it the Disney way.
Hmm.
So that was the gist of the day. They talked a lot. I have to share this because it's one of the things that's really important to me,
Hmm.
and why we continue to go to Disney over and over and over again is it's a place that we feel safe and we feel comfortable, and it's inclusive, and everything that Disney does is by design. So they like talked about their 5 key approach, and like I couldn't believe how much they talked about safety. And they're like every time they get together and have like a staff meeting, they always start with a safety story. So as you're going and you're planning your vacations, just know that that is like top of mind for Disney. it was a really interesting experience because, you're normally in like a ballroom or
Mhm,
something like that. So this was different. They had two rooms, and it was
mhm,
kind of like you were being transported. Like they're getting you up, moving you around
mhm,
into, different scenarios. So we're in the main room, and one of the things that they had talked about was every manager or every cast member, from frontline employees all the way to the most senior executives, they are all, required to take a traditions course. And they all
mhm,
take them together in these cohorts. And so one of the things that they transported us to this other room, and it was set up just like the training facility at the Disney University. So,
mhm,
and they led with they create happiness. Like, so if you are taking that training, like the one thing that you walk away with as a Disney cast member is it is your job to create happiness. Like,
mhm.
isn't that crazy? Like how simple that is, but so impactful.
Oh, and actually, kind of interesting. Again, mid '90s when I was down, living in Central Florida, I actually moonlighted, working at the Planet Hollywood at there at the downtown Disney, and I had to take traditions, and
No way.
yeah, it was a 2-day-long course at that point. It's since been cut back to 1 day, but yes, they talked about, you're not wrong, that they did emphasize safety. They did talk about again, the whole notion of, your job is to create happiness, and one of the key conditions of that is you work while others play. And the whole notion was you have to be able to do that as a Disney employee. These people, they're not our customers, they're our guests.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a fascinating moment to have them pop the hood as to how Disney does what it does.
So, a couple other, takeaways
Mm,
is, they treat their employees just as if they were paying guests, which
okay.
I think a lot of, businesses and companies could benefit from. And
Mm.
I mean, it's all centered for them on the intent to return
Oh, yeah.
for the guests.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, you know, I'll tell you another day, but they did tell the story of like the origin of Water Mickey. When you're going through the theme park and they have
mhm,
the custodial cast members and they're drawing Mickey. And that also started in Tokyo, by the way.
mhm,
I mean, we've been talking about the integration. But
mhm,
what I really wanted to tell you about, I've been dying to tell you about, is
mhm,
the behind the scenes access that we got as a part of this session.
mhm,
So we're there, I think we start at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever it is. We do lunch, we go back for a little bit, and then they say, wear comfortable walking shoes because you could walk up to 2 miles.
mhm,
And I'm like, holy moly, like, where are we walking to? So they get us on this big bus, which I'm assuming was probably like, not, it wasn't a theme park bus, it was more probably like the Magical Express.
mhm.
And they take us over to Epcot, and we are going to Epcot's cast services and costuming. Have you ever been back there, Jim?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've always been intrigued that the perimeter road around Epcot, again, this is, behind the World Showcase, behind, World Discovery, World Nature, World Celebration. It has, like, a name like Hollywood Way or something like that. It's like, shouldn't this name be for the other park?
Oh, well, interesting tidbit
Mhm.
outside of Hollywood Way, and maybe you can confirm this, but this is what our trainer said, that Epcot actually has the sixth largest parking lot in the world. Did you know that?
Once upon a time, they could fill that. And in fact, there are days during the holiday season when they will fill that. In fact, I've been there when the parking lot is full and they're parking people on the little grass berms in between the parking lot. So,
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, Eric was like, "Well, what's like 1
mm,
through 5?" They didn't know that. But
okay.
anyway, so we went to cast services, and it was really cool to kind of see behind the scenes. And, they only had things painted like halfway up, so it looks totally different on the backside. So they only put money where, like, guests are going to see the building or whatever, because it was the whole premise is it's built like a movie set, and that's the way that they conserved resources.
Oh, absolutely. Though, just an interesting side note here. Back in the late 1980s, because again, the sides that don't get painted are the sides that the guests can't see. But what they would do is, for example, when they were trying to decide whether or not the paint job on the dolphin or the swan, remember the big like palm leaves on the side of that building?
Yeah.
They actually painted the backside of the Mexico pavilion so that Michael Eisner could come down and look at the giant palm leaf and go, "All right, that works. Okay." But yeah, again, they actually use the side that the guests don't see when it's all about the future of the parks, the future of the resort.
Yeah, no, I mean it was fascinating.
Mhm,
So we go into this giant building, the cast services,
mhm,
and this is where everybody goes to get their costumes.
mhm.
And the building is huge, and so we go down this long hallway, and we're gonna have to ask Mr. Scholl, unless you know, but it was called like Pride Wall, and there were
Mhm.
all of these. They look like maybe from the '90s. There were all these pieces of Disney art. They were painted by cast members. And that's when Disney quickly learned that, like, their cast members, their fans were all kind of nostalgic. So they're like, okay, well, how do we can't just paint every wall in this building. And so what they're doing now is, they're always doing some type of construction. So any
Mm.
cast member at the time of a new construction, they all get to sign like a beam or a part of that
Yes.
building. And so,
Mhm,
like, the last beam that everybody signed went into Communicore. I
mhm,
just saw a video on YouTube where somebody was referencing, a behind the scenes like wall in Toy Story Mania that had
mhm.
all the cast members' signatures, nods. So, like, they were part of something that was bigger than them.
Yeah, and in fact, each new project of size, I want to say for Pandora, the world of Avatar, they did the exact same thing. And the interesting thing is, it's a smart move on Disney's part because, of course, when you have that sort of physical tie to a land or an attraction, you're that much more likely to protect it, pick up the trash.
Yeah.
It's a very, very smart move from a psychological point for Disney.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just like they had everything figured out, but it's all a process. It's all evolutions. So then we go into this room and it has like hundreds of lockers.
Mhm,
And then there was this wall. It looked like they were windows. So our trainer, she had worked at the parks in the 90s, early 2000s or whatever. And to get your costume, you used to have to walk up to this window, yell out your last for your social, and
right.
then like say your size, and they would like throw your costume whatever. So they had to find a better way, obviously. And so like Len was talking a couple weeks ago on the dish about like the new like food scanners at All Star Sports. They're like AI and it scans what's on your plate.
Mhm,
That's how they do their costuming now. So they put RFID tags in all of their clothes,
mhm.
and the cast members, there's pictures everywhere of like what a cast member can wear, and they can go get their outfit, put it on, go up to like a full body scanner.
Mhm.
They scan their card, it scans their outfit in, and those are the items that they were responsible for, which was like it just blew my mind that that's where we're at with technology. But I mean, they have 70,000 workers at Disney World. So I mean, I guess that is a whole lot of costumes and
No, no,
black
no,
pants, and they
absolutely.
got to keep track of all that.
And the interesting thing is, or at least this is the way it used to be, that for every employee who worked there at Disney, they had three costumes. They had the one they were wearing, the one they'd pick up next, and the one that needed to be laundered, the one they'd
Yeah.
previously used. So you're not just talking 70,000 costumes, you're talking close to a quarter of a million costumes.
It is so, like, it's crazy to wrap your mind around, like
Absolutely.
Disney's like steering the Titanic, but
Mhm.
I was blown away as to how they've like really thought of every detail. Like, they offer their cast members a lot of different perks. Like, now they're not even doing college reimbursement. Like, they're just straight up paying for college in advance for people. They have childcare options. They have like these living well centers throughout property where you can get all of your medical care done, your x-rays, your labs, like everything to kind of keep the engine like moving, I guess. It was incredible, I have to say, and I would hands down do it again.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Fascinating to hear Disney Institute 2024 versus Disney Institute 1998, which, by the way, it was that trip. First time I met Jim Corcus, the Disney historian.
Yeah.
He would actually taught our how to animate class. And it was one of the things where, I kept answering his questions. And it's like at the end of the class, he pulled, he said, "Who are you really?" This was like,
Oh.
you know too much about the company. You've worked here, right? It's like, no, no, just a nerd.
All right, well, we're talking about, Disney's history. We're talking about traditions. Let's talk about the Hyperion when we come back after our break.
Cool.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Streaming now on Peacock. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie are back
That's hot. Loves it.
for a show-stopping reunion that will prove putting on an opera is anything but simple.
We're really good at this.
One thing's for sure, they won't be upstaged.
Good to have you back. Come on, we've got a show to do.
Paris and Nicole, The Encore, a 3-part reunion special. Streaming now, only on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Okay, we're back. And well, again, we were talking about how this show is going to be posted on December 26th. So everybody who went home for Christmas or that sort of thing, you know the drill, right? You were handed lovely gifts by your family members, which you then had to haul out to the car and then drove home or flew home and then had to carry them out of the airport to your car and then drove home and then carried them into the house. So everybody has lovely belongings, but totally stretched out arms from having to schlep all of this stuff. And I bring that up because 85 years ago today, December 26th, 1939, Disney began the move from its old studio up on Hyperion Avenue in Silver Lake to a brand new purpose-built facility in Burbank. Now, I have to ask Lauren, what do you know about the early days of Disney Studio?
I'd be Eric would be embarrassed, but I'd say very little.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, and that's okay because the company doesn't necessarily like to talk about that period. I mean, what's interesting is that, of course, this is where we got Mickey Mouse and the Silly Symphonies, and eventually we got
Yeah.
Snow White. But The hard reality is that there wasn't a business plan, and Walt had the setup on Kingswell Avenue and eventually moved to the Hyperion thing. But as the company grew, and he kept hiring employees. I mean, they just kept moving into buildings that were directly next door to the industrial setup they had. So by the time we're having Snow White made, there are animators working in what used to be residential homes. They would just, hey, the house next door is available for rent. Cool, grab it. And throw the story guys in there. Or put a door on the garage and we'll throw 4 animation desks in there. And it got difficult because again it's like Walt had to meet with people and it's like, okay, go out the back door of this building, go in the door of that one, go through the crawl space, and okay, time for the meeting. And it's like, no, we need to do better. We especially once Snow White comes out in December of 37 and becomes a smash hit. And so it's now, this is our future, this is what we're going to do. All right. And so we need a brand new state of the art purpose built facility that it's ideal for making animation. And so Walt and Roy start looking around the local area, and they're flush with all that Snow White cash, which, by the way, to put this in perspective, Lauren, Snow White cost $1.5 million to make back in 36, 37. By the fall of 1938, Snow White had sold $8 million worth of tickets just in North America alone.
Heck of a return on investment.
It was an amazing return on investment. So that's why Walt, in August of 1938, they're looking around for land in the immediate vicinity. It turns out in Burbank, there's this 51-acre tract of land that's owned by the Burbank Department of Water and Power. And they had been leasing it out to the Black Fox Military Academy as a polo field. And it was just sort of this big chunk of undeveloped land. And so Walt and Roy look at it and it's like, this is it. Again, they put down a $10,000 deposit. Again, the Water and Power Company was going to sell it to Disney for $100,000. So they go out and they put together plans about how are we going to do a modern animation studio, especially one that's going to be producing animated features and shorts at the same time. And so they do things like they create this building with all sorts of windows with lots of natural light. So the animators, the artists have great light to draw by. Likewise, they big wide hallways with large doors coming out of rooms because animators are going to be carrying these giant storyboards from room to room. And it's during the construction of this thing that Walt brings his dad Elias, who you remember, a construction worker back in the
Miles,
day.
my son is named after Miles
Is he really?
Elias. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. How cool. Well, anyway, Elias had actually worked on the Chicago World's Fair, and so this is the thing. Walt is walking his dad around the building, and Walt can't help but notice, but Elias is getting more and more nervous. And finally, it's like, Dad, what's the problem? And he says, well, what happens if you fail? You're building this giant facility. What's going to happen with all this? And Walt just thinking off the cuff, well, Dad, it could be a hospital. I mean, look, we have the wide hallways and the big doors, so we could move beds from room to room. And Elias visibly calms down. Oh, good. All right. So when your studio crashes and burns, all right, you can at least tell it to a hospital, and it's all right. I feel better now. But real irony of the situation, Lauren, is again, Disney Studio officially opened in Burbank in early January of 1940. I mean, they begin the moving in late December. And it takes them between 6 months to get everything over from Hyperion and also, just to finish the construction. But 4 years later, right across from Disney, St. Joseph Hospital gets in 1943. So 400 bed facility. And in fact, kind of a cruel irony on this story is that because, of course, Disney Studio succeeds, But that's where Walt dies in December of '66, right across the street. And by the way, this same thing happened again in 1955 when Roy is down in Anaheim walking an investor around, or a would-be investor in Disneyland around the Anaheim construction site. And it's like they walk past the castle and they walk through Frontierland and they're strolling out of Main Street. And it's like, this is nice, but what are you going to do if it fails?
It's a
And
hospital? The most
well,
magical
no,
hospital on Earth?
no, it's actually with Roy, totally off the cuff. Oh, we'll shoot movies down here. It's a backlot. We'll do our medieval movies there in front of the castle. We'll do our westerns over in Frontierland, and we'll do the slice of life American turn of the century thing right here.
And the guy's like, all right.
Now, unfortunately, again, here's Walt spending all of this money to build this state-of-the-art production facility, but Germany invades Poland in September of 1939, which begins beginning of World War II. So again, what is that? 4 months before they begin moving in, the markets for Disney films begin to creep in worldwide, and then suddenly this really becomes a problem when Pinocchio opens in February of 1940. I mean, they're still moving into the lot, but they've spent so much money on Pinocchio that it actually loses money. And then in November of 1940, they open Fantasia, and God, that the money that Fantasia lost compared to Pinocchio makes that look like a hit. And so there was this gentleman who worked at Disney Studio. His name was Bob Jones. And he worked in the department of Disney that created reference material for the movies that people were working on. I mean, for example, he was the one when they were working on Pinocchio and they were trying to figure out, well, what does Stromboli's coach look like in that movie? He built an actual three-dimensional model out of wood and balsa wood and paper and that sort of thing. So the animators could literally look at this thing from all angles and figure out how to animate it. And he also built about a 1 inch to 1 foot scale version of Geppetto's Toy Shop.
Oh.
And one morning he gets a call in the spring of 1941 that Walt wants to see him at his office. And it's like, what did I do? So goes upstairs to Walt's office, and Walt has the Geppetto Toy Shop model on his desk. And he turns to Bob, how much to make this bigger? And so, how much bigger do you want it? So, well, I want to go inside of it. I want to walk around. And it's, why would you want to do that? And Walt proceeds to tell Bob, well, you understand that we've lost all of the revenue we typically get out of Asia and Europe due to the war. We're now strictly relying on what we get out of North America. We're not making money. I got to find another revenue stream for the studio. And he says, when I came to Hollywood back in the 1920s, you could pay a quarter and get onto the Universal lot. And you could watch movies being made. And I was thinking, people come to Hollywood and they love our cartoons, but they can't come in because you can't have people walk up to your desk and look. We need to create an attraction. And he said, I was thinking, what if we did a full-size version of Geppetto's Toy Shop and we could sell toys out of that? And what if we did like a ride, like a Seven Dwarfs Mine Train ride, and we had like a singing fountain that played Disney music here on the lot? And he said, we could take an acre of the 51 acres here and make an attraction for people, and they could pay us a quarter or $1. And he sent Bob off to work on this idea. And unfortunately, again, this is spring of 41. In May of 1941, there was the infamous Disney animators strike. And just after that got settled, World War II happened. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor got bombed. And on December 8th, of that same year, the day after Pearl Harbor, Walt got a call at home and said, the Army Air Corps is here. And it's like, what? The Army Air Corps is here, coming onto the lot and setting up shop. And what had happened is that Roosevelt had declared we're now at war. And The priority one was then protecting those things that were involved in the war effort. And just down the street from Disney was the Lockheed plant. So suddenly, here's the Army requisitioning the Disney lot to set up cannons that, with the notion of, well, they made it as far as Pearl Harbor. Undoubtedly, the Japanese next target will be flying to the continental United States and taking out things in the service of the war. So we need to protect them. So we're setting up heavy armament on the Disney lot. And what ended up happening is now, in order to just get on the Disney lot to work on a movie, you had to have a security clearance and an ID. And Walt's idea of building an acre-sized attraction that people could pay $1 to get on the Disney lot, that just went away because he was having trouble enough getting his own employees onto the lot with the Army Air Corps there.
Wow. So we never got the toy shop.
We never got the toy shop. We did eventually get Disneyland, though what was kind of interesting is Walt, for a time, kept the idea alive and actually wanted to use land that was directly across the street now from Disneyland, across Riverside Drive, because the idea kept percolating in his head and went from 1 acre to 5 acres to 15 acres to eventually the 50 plus acres down in Anaheim. But that's, again, a story for another time. And just to bring this full circle, animator artist Mike Peraza, lovely guy. I've done a bunch of the Dayton Disneyana things with him. Mike, for the past couple of years, has been working on this amazing project that I'm hoping he completes soon. That basically the idea is Mike is using his talent as an artist and all the research he's done. He's creating a CG version of Hyperion Studios.
Oh, no way.
And the idea is at some point in the very near future, if you want to explore Hyperion Studios as it was in the 1930s when the Mickey Mouse shorts and Silly Symphonies and again, Snow White was produced there, Mike is building the entire thing virtually, and you'll be able to go from building to building and visit the story department.
It's like being in the metaverse.
In the metaverse, only the Mickey metaverse.
Okay. That's my kind of metaverse.
There we go. So anyway, just make you aware, folks, that should be available to, I don't know where Mike's going to put it, but as soon as it's available, I'm buying a copy or I'm supporting it with a subscription, however he does it.
You're going to visit the virtual world.
You can visit the virtual Hyperion Studios.
I think on that note, Jim, I think it's about time we closed up shop for today. What do you say?
I totally agree. I just wish that we could be closing up the full-size Geppetto toy shop on the Disney lot.
Oh, me too. Me too. I just get so sad. You tell all these amazing stories of things that we never got, but we do see little, hints and, all over the place. So, and we can keep telling the stories. You can keep telling the stories. So anyways, if you want to stay up to date with everything happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, make sure you are following along on Facebook, Instagram, X, social media. We're posting all the latest updates, all the news from all of our shows, so you won't miss a thing.
And don't forget, if you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, if I want that too, Lauren and I would, of course, love to hear from you. So please reach out to us either through social media or email us directly. You can reach out to me at jim@jimhillmedia.com, and Lauren can be reached at lauren@laurenhersey.com.
Yes, and we are building out our 2025 slate of shows now, so we would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we will see you next time on I Want That Too.